The Serra Padres have won the WCAL title with a 10-0 record. They're on to their next journey, the Road to State 2022. Hello and welcome to the Serra High School Football Podcast. I'm here joined with Patrick Walsh once again, and we are in a very exciting time right now. We had a great game last week against Salinas High School with a final score of 57-21. Great game, and it was a really fun just environment here.
Yeah.
Why don't you tell us a little bit about how you felt about that game?
You're not going to ask me about the sweater?
Well, I was going to ask you about the sweater. You're very patriotic today.
You're just going to gloss over
right into it. I love the sweater, so tell us about it.
There is nothing behind it. I forgot that we had podcast today, and I'm like, you know what? I haven't worn my American flag sweater in a while, and I was thinking of making up something or making up a cool reason. Like, hey, it's the World Cup, and
oh yeah, there you go. USA played yesterday.
I support USA soccer 100%. I'm not wearing it for that purpose. There is no purpose.
It's 42 degrees.
It's cold. It's cold, and I was looking through all my funky sweaters, and I'm like, you know what? I'm going to wear the USA one today. I like America. Let's rock it.
And for the record, that was the first thing I asked you: is what's the significance? I thought I was forgetting another day, like Veterans Day. I was like going through my brain.
Sure, Veterans is every day.
You just
Veterans
are very patriotic, and that's awesome.
All right, now let's talk about Salinas.
All right, let's talk about Salinas. So
yeah, it was 57-21. It was. I told Coach Zank, who's the head coach at Salinas, during halftime when we met up, I just was like, man, I had no idea this was going to be like this, and neither did he. And we talked before the game, and it was just one of those moments where everything came together, and there was, there's explanations for things. You can break it down play by play, but from an emotional perspective, it was just really good football, and it was a group of guys that came together, and we definitely didn't take them lightly, which is what I think people were assuming, or some people mentioned. I'm like, we're not taking these guys lightly. There's 0% chance of that because they're good.
Absolutely.
And I was very impressed with the overall effort, enthusiasm, just the way we played, offense, defense, special teams in that half was special, and arguably maybe the best 24 minutes we've played since I've been here at Serra. And as I say that, and it rolls off my tongue like that, that concerns me because we got another game to play.
Right.
And I am fearful. I'm very, very fearful. I'm not afraid. What do they say? Like, the only thing to fear is fear itself. So you can just keep going down that rabbit hole. Sure. But I'm afraid of that, if you know what I mean, just because that's something that's going to be very, very difficult to duplicate. It's also very human to assume that it's duplicable. It's very human to assume that that's just going to happen again. Mm-hmm. And we'll talk about Mitty later, but for me, that's my biggest fear. That's probably what we've been talking a lot about, ego management this year.
Right.
And
it's a fine line between, it's a fine line between fear and, being paralyzed by fear, but yet letting fear drive you to succeed. I mean, it's a tricky line, but I think you've done a great job with that. I think that you've kept the boys, every week, I have my son to give me feedback a lot too, right? Every week I hear about, the way that you've helped, maintain the focus and the mindset that these teams are here to beat us. And I think that there is an element, that you do a great job of keeping them on that fine line so that they're not, going one way or the other. Because, Salinas did come out. I was walking up to the stands as they were, doing warm-ups with their, uniform, bleach blonde hair, and they looked big and strong and organized, and that's scary on home turf. So they brought a wonderful group of fans who were super supportive, and so it's intimidating.
It was a great environment. It was our last home game, and it was a great crowd. Everybody showed up to support both teams. Again, Coach Zank has really galvanized Salinas. I think he's done a great job of creating that culture of being a Salinas Cowboy, and he was explaining how the school comes together, the makeup of the school, and you could see that in their team. There's a strong belief system, and we knew that going in. And so we gave them all the credit that they deserved, and they were a 10-1 team, and our guys just played really, really extremely well.
And they did too. I mean, their quarterback number 9, he had some really good drives too. You could see when he was getting hot. And of course, our defense was amazing. Offense, Grant McGovern had some amazing plays. Jaden Weber, Jaden Green. The list goes on. Our quarterback is insanely talented.
He had a great game.
Yeah.
And I would say that no pressure, but I've just deemed Grant McGovern's new nickname as Jesus.
There you go. No more Chucky. We're throwing that out.
No, Chucky's done because that's an evil little baby doll,
Right.
right? So now he's elevated to Jesus.
That's a big jump.
Why he got that nickname was because he back-to-back graded at 100%.
Oh, my gosh.
So back-to-back he's graded. Now, no pressure, Chucky. We're going to keep you humble.
Yeah, keep him humble there.
He dropped a pass yesterday, and I go, come on, Pontius, you're better than this. I don't know if anyone picked up on that. It was kind of,
Pontius Pilate, yep.
Anyway. So he did. Funny. Yeah, there was several contributors across the board. Whenever anything happens in that level, it's a team effort. Coaches, players. Father Joe, prayers for Father Joe. Everything coming together. Offense, defense, special teams. So, now it's on to the next one.
It was great. Well, just to finish up with this one real quick.
Sure.
At half, you guys were up 50-7, so it was amazingly high score. What were you guys thinking at halftime? I mean, what was the kind of, everybody always likes to know what you talk about in the locker room. I mean, how you keep the boys motivated for the next 24 minutes, which could arguably change, which they did with the final score of 21 for Salinas. So tell us about that.
Well, we as coaches agreed at halftime, and this is the high school rule is 35 points in the fourth quarter if you're winning. It's a mandatory running clock. Or if you choose to do it before that, the coaches can get together and say, look, we're going to run the clock. And at that point, Coach Zank and I, determined that it was probably time to run the clock. So I told the team, we're running the clock and no starters are going to play. It's all bottom of the fire guys, and let's get after it and hold you to the standard. And that's pretty much what I told him. We spent time organizing who's playing where, who's going in, who's coming out, all those things it takes. Because, frankly, we didn't plan for this. We humbly went into this game thinking it was going to be a 48-minute game, which is where we wanted the team to be. Mm-hmm. And it from the bottom of our hearts and souls, like that's what we expected. It didn't happen that way. So, therefore, contingency plans and planning that we didn't do before, because we didn't expect it, needed to happen at halftime. So I brought the coaches together right before, said, look, we're going to run the clock. You guys need to plan and make sure that, we're rotating kids in, getting kids playing time, and which we saw the second half was all of our 2s and 3s.
Right.
And Salinas did not have 2s and 3s in, so it was our 2s and 3s versus their 1s for the majority of the third and most of the fourth quarter. So it was good to see us competing against them.
Definitely, and having that opportunity to compete against the top tier is great game practice. I just wanted to call a few out. Brooks Trimmer did a great job at quarterback. Nano Latu, number 26, he drove that up. I mean, he is unstoppable. It was really fun to watch him. I'm like, wait, he's not down. He's ready to go. It's great. And then, of course, Jonah Alapati, number 60, he was having great. And numerous other people. I just was thinking about the game, the people that popped up. And, you had Tommy Gooch kick. You had a bunch of, other people in. I think Diago kicked as well. And then, of course, I've got to say, Judy A was great. Entirely, but I have to bring all of them up. I wish we could name them all because they're awesome. And speaking of name dropping, I do want to just call out Jabari Mann for being named Football Defensive Player of the Year, and Malawaki Smith Defensive Player of the Year, and then Football Player of the Year for Malawaki Smith. So congratulations, that's enormous. Robert
Bronstein's been just a gem for high school sports around here since my senior year. My senior year in 1992. I believe, and Robert could corroborate the story, was the first year of Cal High Sports.
Mm-hmm. Wow,
and
that long.
Yeah, and I think I was a part of the first banquet. I think everything was the first, or maybe the second. But so it's been really cool to see how Robert has grown and kept high school sports relevant in an area where there's so much going on. Niners, Warriors, Sharks. I mean, there's so many things going on around here. You got Napa, you got the beach, you got everything. It's just sometimes high school sports can be pushed to the side, where in Texas it's national TV for the nation of Texas.
And also with just shifting media too, right? I mean, gone are the days of literally opening up we had hundreds of independent newspapers, just local, Boutique and Villager and the San Mateo,
right.
I mean, not the Daily Journal, but it was like the press or the Times or whatever, but you would see your name. I remember my brothers, it was consistent. And so it's kind of funny that he's still found an area to make sure that they're recognized. So
TV still exists in 2022. Yeah. And so Robert with the help of the Niners, and it's just really great to see just someone that carts around on a camera, to work to what he's still doing. Like he's on the sideline of all the big games. It's just really cool to see, a friend and a colleague or whatever, just keep rising and growing his business. And his home is Levi Stadium now, and I think he's going to continue to expand across California. So I want to thank him, but I'm bringing him up because he and his team selected those two guys as players of the year in their respective category, and I think it's very deserving. I can say, because I was just curious about this, what was the most amount of touchdowns a Serra quarterback has ever had in a season? And that's Luke Batari in 2019. Dang it. 17? Sorry, Luke. I'm bad with years. But Luke had 30 touchdowns in a year.
Wow.
And Milwaukee has 35.
Oh, wow.
So,
that's a really, really good statistic.
And since he can't take away touchdowns,
right.
He's officially has the most touchdowns passes thrown in a single season with 35, and we still have a game left this weekend.
We do. And that's what I want to talk about. Well, I mean, hats off to Milwaukee. He's awesome. He's so much fun to watch, and he's just such a great young man. So wonderful, well-deserved. Okay, so we're entering the CCS Championships, and we will play at San Jose City College at 7 p.m. Friday after Thanksgiving. It's very fun to be playing still, having the season extend through Thanksgiving. Lots to be thankful for. We will play Mitty, and Mitty actually beat St. Francis by 1 point in overtime last Friday night. And let's talk about Mitty. How often have we played them in the CCS Championships?
We've played them in 2013. Coach Matt Haniger was the head coach then, and that year they were something and 2, and they lost to Serra. Mitty at that time lost to Serra in the regular season game in a very competitive game, and then lost in the CCS Championship game in a very, very competitive game. And that was the only 2 losses Mitty had that year. Coach Haniger, dear friend of mine, his kids, and Haniger has gone through Mitty since Mitty was founded, I believe. So the Haniger name is synonymous with Mitty sports, athletics. Daughter played there, won a state championship. So we become friends over the years, and that was a very, very tight game. I remember we had a 3rd and like 37 or something, and we ran F Sluggo down the middle to Kava Cassidy, and he got a first down. That was like the beginning of like the turn in the game. And then we also played Archbishop Mitty in 2017, I believe, when Shane Villaroma was a senior. Again, I could be getting these wrong, but dang it. I think it was 2017. And I remember we ran a bubble pass on like the first play of the game, and Shane, we had a great blocking, and he went and scored. It was a very, very close game. I think it was like 7-6 at halftime.
Wow. I
mean, I'm anticipating this again this week. This is a proud team. This is a team that has had ups and downs throughout the season. They have really, really strong senior leadership. I talked about on the first time we played Mitty, they have a strong belief system in who they are. Mm-hmm. And I knew this when we played them in a summer passing league, that something was different about this Mitty team than the year before.
You mentioned that. You mentioned the black uniforms, that they had come out just looking like such an organized front. I remember you saying
They did. And I was at Palo Alto High School, and I remember commenting to Coach Sullivan, like, man, there's leadership all over this. Because the year before, I think they won 1 game or 2 games, and I remember Coach Sullivan not being very happy about that naturally. And then just kind of the change and the culture of how they did things is continuing on now throughout the season. And now, I mean, they've won 2 overtime games in the playoffs, which is incredible.
That's great, yes.
And I there was a title of one of the articles. I was going through the things that popped up or whatever, and it said Monarch Magic or something like that. And broke down the last game against St. Francis, which was unbelievable way to win a game. It was unbelievable. I actually called Danny the next day like, man, bravo, because they had all sorts of reasons to quit. Give Mitty a reason to quit in that game, and they did not, which again goes back to summer culture and everything coach is doing over there, which is very, very impressive. I have a ton of respect for that. And when you're down 15 with 4 minutes to play in a game's over, allegedly.
Right.
They scored. They got a PAT, and on the PAT they roughed the kicker. St. Francis roughed the kicker. That moves the ball up from the 40 to the 45, a 15-yard penalty. So now they're down 8. And maybe this is one of the best onside kicks I've ever seen by the Mitty kicker. Left hash, pops it into the ground to the right hash, lands at the top of the numbers, right at the 35-yard line, right on the line. And a Mitty kid scoops it like he's Derek Jeter at shortstop. And they fall down. Now they have the ball at the 34. Down 8. Score. Get the 2-point conversion. I mean, there was a penalty on 3rd and something in the corner. There was a PI call. I mean, everything was going right. This is this whole magic concept, right? And then they get the 2-point conversion, and then they score. They're up 7, and then St. Francis scores, and they did not get the extra point. So it was just an amazing game. I was sitting there watching it like, holy cow, this is unbelievable. So in terms of a sporting event, that was amazing. And they went for huge. 2 against Los Gatos the week before in overtime.
I was going to say that,
and they got that to number 10, Scudero. He's an amazing player. And, so there's a lot of juice over there. There's a lot of magic. There's a lot of great play. There's a lot of coaching. There's a lot of belief. And it's going to be something that we're going to have to deal with. Like I've been talking each week, there's always a storyline. There's always an obstacle. And for me, everyone looks at players. They look at players. And for me as a head coach, I look at belief systems. And I look at that. To me is always I'm the most afraid of teams that have belief that anything can happen.
Right.
And I want our team to know and have the belief that anything can happen as it relates to what happened last week. Okay, so now I'm like, okay, if we're making assumptions that this is going to happen this week, we're going to be in deep trouble. Mm-hmm. And which is fine. I mean, at this point, like I've told you guys many, many, many times, like I'm okay with losing football games. I am okay with it. We haven't done it this year, which is good. I prefer this.
Yes,
I prefer it. But if life needs to teach us lessons, then we're going to learn them. Mm-hmm. Okay? And I'm not afraid of it. I'm not afraid of it. If we play with fear, like, oh my God, we're 12-0, and what if we lose? And we're going to lose. Okay? So I'm not going to tolerate that. At this point, we are who we are. We've developed the relationships. This is the time to throw everything on the table. Mm-hmm. Okay? Just the whole push your chips in on the table. Let's go. Okay? And Mitty's going to fight, and Sarah's going to fight. And this is what we want in the Division I, not open. We were talking about this. We're the Division I championship game. And it's going to be at San Jose City College, which is exciting. Last year was at Westwood or Westmont or something. Yeah. And, we used to host it at the CCS many times. And I think they went through just a whole remodel. It's a beautiful stadium. It is down in San Jose, which is close to Mitty. So we need the Padres to show up. We need the Padres student body, the Padre alumni, that Padre Nation to show up, because it's a short drive for the Monarch community. It's right in the backyard. So, if not, then we're head down and going to play anyway.
Exactly. Well, I think that you're going to have a lot of people that are very interested in being there to watch. It's just such good football. It's so fun. Getting back to Mitty, we did play them on our homecoming game, our game under the lights on the 30th of September. Our final score was 35-7. I think they scored actually in the last quarter, so we had kind of held them. That was one of those games that was going to be. We talked at one point. Remember, we were talking about why they always get 7 points. It was like 3 games that we had to shut out until 7 points. But they were one of them. And I just could we just talk about like the team right now? You've talked about the belief system, and we have talked a lot about when you see football teams just come together and rise. So I can see that. But in terms of the skill, can you talk a little bit about the skill of the team?
Yeah, so as I relate this to our game this weekend, Mitty's gotten better throughout the year, and so has Serra. So when I've watched our team play that game, because obviously we're studying that film, we weren't great. We're better now, and that's objective. And largely I'm relating that to me being the line coach, the offensive line coach. And we made a ton of mistakes in that game, just a ton of mistakes, and Mitty did a great job of exploiting them. We had some takeaways in that game. We had some blocking errors in that game. There were things that we could be doing better, and we're going to be challenged on Friday night once again, and I want to see if what I'm saying is true. Like, I know Mitty's better, right? And we have this isn't the 5th game of the year. This is the 13th game of the year. So we have kids that are more experienced than they were when we played that night. So I'm hopeful that we can use all the lessons that we've learned from that night, everything that we've learned in between, and galvanize all those lessons and pour it out on the field Friday night. That's the plan. And really leave nothing unturned, really, and just no regrets, really. No regrets. It's game 13. There's finality now. This is the time of year where there is finality. This is the beautiful thing about the playoffs. Right? It's we can talk about, now you're talking about players of the year, and you're talking about all league, you're talking about awards, because there's finality to the end. The dash is getting.
I just almost said the dash.
It's it's ticking
away.
Right? And if we want to reset the clock, we have to win on Friday night. And either way, there's finality to it. This is the last game in the CCS.
It's a big deal, yeah.
Yeah,
it's been a great season. It's been a great season for many, many teams, Mitty included. So
you asked me about the skill.
Yes, I did.
Okay.
I was laying off just in case you didn't want to go.
You asked me about the skill. I mean,
their quarterback's amazing.
Their quarterback's amazing. Number 10's amazing. Number 3's amazing. They have a salty defense that flies around. They got number 40 on defense is really tough. 73 plays two ways. He's a really, really good player. 22 is a plugger in the middle. Number 8's caught a lot of balls. Number 6 is running the ball well. Number 1 is the field general back there, doing a great job. I mean, and so they have great skill and a great belief system. Serra, our defense is still playing great, and over 12 games we've played great, and we need to continue on that. We can't let off the gas right now. We got to continue to fly to the ball. Got to continue to fit in our gaps. We got to continue to play a well-coached defense. We got to continue to push, continue to get better. We seek to be the very best we can be at all times. This is not the time to take a step back. And if we do, we learn, we cry, we move on.
Right.
Okay. But this is not the time. We continue to push. We continue to get better because we've never arrived in our existence as a human. We're never going to be perfect, but we can always strive to be. We can strive to be the best we can be. We were 9 of 12 on goals last week. We were 4 for 4 on offense, which was great to see. And we made 2 mistakes in the 12% category. 2. We almost were perfect in terms of mistakes. Okay, we had 1 fumble. The ball got stripped out of Jaden Weber's hands, and Seamus was there to gather it, thankfully. So it was not a turnover, but it was a fumble. And we had 1 penalty. So we had 2 mistakes. We've never had a game where we were perfect in that category, right?
That's amazing.
Never. So we were 4 for 4 there. We were 2 for 4 on defense. Okay, the ones gave up 7, and then bottom of the fire came in, and they scored 14. So we did not get our points goal. Okay, so we want 17 points or less a game. Did not get that goal. It was 21, and we had 0 takeaways. Nice to get some takeaways on Friday. Those are just kind of life-changing events on both sides. Freaks me out. Takeaways they're just soul wrenchers. They're soul givers. They're life givers. Yes. They're life takers, and you got to either overcome them or build off of them. Yeah. And then our special teams was 3 for 4. Did a great job. We had 1 punt that didn't go 32.5 yards. Other than that, we played really clean on special teams. So we were 12 for 12 once this year. I mean, it's very, very difficult to do, almost impossible. We've only done it twice in the history of the school. Yep. But we got room to grow too.
And it's been improving though. Every week that you've been giving our scores, I mean, they're going up. It's amazing to see. So it's
our
exactly
team
what you just said.
Achievement goal for the season is 72%. That magic number is 75% is something. And this was really cool. Dylan Judier, who's arguably our captain of special teams now because he's been kicking all the time and doing a great job. Was very, very mindful of our kickoff return because we have to get to the 35-yard line or better. And Jaden scrambled and broke a tackle and got to the 35. He's like, all right, we got that goal. So I like that the team is mindful about something other than the scoreboard. Right. I think that's special.
It is.
Right? That's a special thing. So hopefully we can continue to channel that inner drive to be the best we can be as people and students with the 3.42, like striving to get to that 3.5, just a little bit more. I mean, what if we turn in the grades?
Deeper,
So I don't know. I'm never satisfied. It's kind of a curse. I wish I could. Sometimes, I really wish I could be more grateful about the past. But as I've told you before, nostalgia for some reason gives me great pain because it's gone. And so I don't even think about it. It's just over, whether it's good or bad. Obviously pain in the past can haunt you in the future. So maybe it's good that I have this fear of nostalgia because I block it or deal with it and move on. And then success is just, for me, it doesn't mean anything because it doesn't matter to what's happening at this moment. Does that make sense?
It does. I mean, it does. I think that, and then once the season's over, then your reflection can begin, right? And you can pull out what you want.
But then what about 2023?
Well, then you I don't know.
Right?
I don't know the answer.
Yeah. See, I just keep
but
going.
But I think you're doing a great job with what you've been doing. So whatever your recipe is, keep following it.
Yeah.
Well, it's working, and you're inspiring so many every year, year over year. I mean, whether they're on your team suited up or they're in the spectators or just listening to the podcast, you continue to inspire. So keep it up.
Thank you.
I did just think about Seamus Gilmartin. We didn't bring him up.
Oh, yeah.
When we were just talking about,
yes.
I was thinking when you said Judier, but his, he set the tone of the game at the beginning, with his touchdown and 2-point conversion. So hats off to him. And I'm thinking
third
of all
down
these
play,
other kids too right now that I should
third
name.
down play. Yeah, it's just, I don't think it's fair to name everyone.
I know. I just keep thinking like, oh, he was great and he was great. And there was that crazy hit. There's been a lot of there's a lot of great plays. So
yeah, that was a great catch by Seamus. Great throw by Milwaukee too. It was amazing.
100%. Well, let's talk about gratitude because I know that you are a hugely grateful individual, and it's I'm sure you're very appreciative to be playing over Thanksgiving. You always say that every year. It's like to get to Thanksgiving. You say that back in the summer. So can you tell us a little bit about the Padre football tradition of Thanksgiving? If you make it this far, what do you do for the families?
Sure. Well, once in the summer when it's hot as hell, I'll wear my Thanksgiving sweatshirt. It says the Trinity, and it's got a chicken leg and a thing of apple pie and then a football.
Yep.
And which is about as American as it can get. So
I was just going to say,
if I thought ahead, so this is now everyone knows I didn't plan any of this. So I should have wore my Thanksgiving sweatshirt or sweater, which is the Trinity, and it's merely an expression to the team in the summertime that if we work, we'll be practicing on Thanksgiving. Practicing on Thanksgiving means you're playing for a section championship.
Right.
Very special moment.
Big deal.
We've made it a thing because we practice on Thanksgiving quite a bit around here, thankfully, that we do a prayer service with the family. Families bring goodies.
Potluck, yep.
Hopefully there's some protein-based goodies, like maybe just a chicken leg. I'll eat it at 10 in the morning.
No sweetbreads this
leg,
year.
right?
Yeah, you mean turkey leg. I was waiting.
God, anyway, but there's donuts and all sorts of pastries and whatnot. It's really good. The families come. There's coffee. Parents are encouraged to come support the kids, and then we do a brief prayer at the 50. I already have it. I have a prayer picked out by Chief Seattle,
nice.
Which is really, really cool. Obviously, Chief Seattle is what Seattle's named after. So this is a very heartwarming prayer that I'm going to share with everybody. The 50, and hopefully the kids show up and the alumni show up. It's really cool.
And you do a practice for us all to watch.
We practice.
Really cool.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then we go to chapel.
Yeah, that's great.
Awesome. So it's a great day. And the only thing better than practicing on Thanksgiving is practicing after Thanksgiving.
Yeah, right. We'll get to that in a minute.
Yeah.
But I do want to talk about what it means should, whatever team wins, what's next. I do want to talk about that in a second. But I wanted to bring up the hats. Some of you might have seen the really cool, I guess, what would you call that print? They debuted on Poly Day for some people, the Block S. Do you know what the print is called? It's more of like a tropical print. It's a tropical print. It's, but anyway, the hats are on a donor-based contribution, and if anybody's interested, they're really cool. We'll go ahead and try to put an image on at one point, but you can go ahead and DM Padre Football, the Instagram, and we can get you in touch with Nicole Sorrell, who's kind of spearheading the effort. But
thank you, Nicole.
All proceeds go to the football program, and it's just a wonderful way to support Padre Football. So we wear a cool hat.
We have the hat with there's an S, and I got 50 of them for the program, and the coaches got all those, and it's an S, but there's no blue line around the S. And when I basically stole this from Pepperdine, from Willie's Golf. Pepperdine has the same print, and it's got the P with the blue around the P, and that's what I wanted. Well, the first 50 hats came out without the blue line around it.
I see.
So I'm calling it the Blue Line Tropical Hat.
Very cool.
I bought 100 of them, and we're only going to sell 100. They're not really selling them. They didn't cost $200, obviously.
Right.
But I'm using the hat. If you make a $200 donation
or more,
yeah, fair enough. Then as a reflection of that gift, then you get a Blue Line hat. There's only 100 of them. We've already sold, I think, 35 or 40.
Yeah, a lot of people are wanting them, but I thought I'd just plug them here.
Thank you.
Just because, yeah. Awesome. So moving forward, the next thing after the CCS Championships, how does that work? Could you just talk about just the divisions and all of that? Because I think people are kind of curious as to what's next if we
or not
if we win. Exactly. Like that's what I'm using an if.
Thank you. So because we're at the final stages of things, there's a lot of things people talk about, like what could happen, what should happen, what may happen, and all that as you're running through the season. That's the fun part. That's where the fans come in, and there's conjecture about who can do this and that and what's going to happen. Here's what's happening. Now that we're here, here's what's happening. Whoever wins the Mater Dei Bosco game, they're playing in the Rose Bowl, which I'd much rather be in San Jose City College. It's a way better venue than the Rose Bowl. I'm just telling you, okay?
So they're playing Friday night, the same Friday night that we were playing.
I think Friday.
Yes.
I don't know for sure, but if they're playing Friday or Saturday, whatever, they're playing in the Rose Bowl. Whoever wins that game will be the Southern representative for the open division of the state championship. Okay? That's final. That's just, and then whoever loses cries and goes home and they're done. They had a great year. In the North, St. Mary's was undefeated at one point. They lost in the first round. So St. Mary's could have played Folsom. They're not playing Folsom. Okay? So if you look at the North sections that could produce a team for the North representative of that scenario, it's Serra. If Serra wins the game, then we would play the winner of Bosco Mater Dei. There's no argument to that because we beat Folsom and we beat De La Salle and everyone else below us, basically. That's just the way it is.
Right.
If we lose, we cry, we go home, had a great season, and we learn and we move on.
Right.
Okay? And I like that about the section. You win, you keep playing. You lose, you cry, you learn, you move on. It's painful. A lot of great lessons in pain. Okay? So if we lose the game, there needs to be an open representative, right? Yeah. To play the winner of Mater Dei Bosco, which then would be Folsom if they win their section championship.
Okay, got it.
If Folsom wins their section championship, they would play Mater Dei or Bosco if Serra lost because they beat De La Salle.
Oh, I see. Okay. I see the trickle down then.
Yeah. And that's where it's at. And then everything falls below that. And that's the only definitive thing you can say about the state playoff system is in the open division. That's it. And even last year, it wasn't definitive. It was definitive that Mater Dei was in it, but the board got together and just randomly, in a way, selected Serra. I mean, St. Francis beat De La Salle, then we beat St. Francis in the championship game, then they selected us. It was either us or De La Salle because we don't produce a loser in the CCS Championship game for the continuance of the state game. Our section doesn't do that.
I see.
Now, some would argue that St. Francis should have been, like if you could say, look, if Serra has a bad night, they had 12 great nights and they're 12-1 and they're one of the best teams in the North. You know, but I like the finality of everything. I personally like it. I mean, right, wrong, or indifferent, it's the way it is. And football's a game that if you win, you move on. If you lose, you cry and go home and you learn.
Right.
So, and then everything below, like 1AA and 1A and 2AA and 2A and all that, like it goes, all the teams that are section champs goes to the state board, CIF, Ron Nichetti at CIF, and then they place games, regional games.
Okay. So then if Mitty were to win, they're not done after this
No,
either.
Mitty would be the Division I championship champion, and
they
would play probably in a regional game against maybe De La Salle or someone else.
I see. Interesting. So it's complex yet pretty
right. And then then you have the Bakersfield teams, and you got Fresno teams, and you got the North teams, and then everything kind of comes into play. The way this season worked out, because a lot of teams played each other. You know, St. Mary's played Folsom. No, they didn't play Folsom, but St. Mary's played De La Salle. St. Mary's played a bunch of teams that we all played. We played De La Salle. There's kind of De La Salle is always the link in this. You can't talk about the state.
I feel like I thought we were going to play St. Mary's at some point. I mean, they were looking pretty good. I thought that maybe we'd see them later in the season at some point. I don't know.
Well, no, because if St. Mary's beat Folsom, and the state picked St. Mary's to play in the open division against Mater Dei or Bosco, then they would go.
That's right. Okay.
And we would play in a regional game against De La Salle probably. Anyway, at this point, that's out.
Doesn't even
it's
matter.
fun for people to banter and learn and listen. Like, you know, Rosie came in here and said, hey, why aren't we in the open division this year? Like in the section. Well, our section doesn't do open division. It has Division 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And one may call one open because we do take our 8 best teams and put them in one based on our power system. So in a way, it's an open division.
Which is where we played Palma as 8 and we were 1, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Yeah. Anyway.
Awesome. Well, thank you for that because I know, I mean, everybody wants to know that. And I feel like every single year we have to ask that question because it's always different. It's like a little puzzle for those of us that aren't coaches.
Yes, and I don't think about it at all. And the only time I allow myself to think about it when it's just when it's final, and I'm good with it.
Awesome. Well, this has been a great chat, and I do appreciate your time. I want to wish you a happy Thanksgiving, and I'll see you at the prayer service. But I just want to express our gratitude for your program, your coaches, your teammates, your fans, the School of Serra that supports us as well. It's just we have a lot to be thankful for. And
I think gratitude is a very powerful human weapon because it forces us out of our own miserable state of affairs. It's easy to be miserable. It's easy to be self-deprecating. It's easy to kind of walk through life just feeling sorry for ourselves and whatnot. And gratitude will shake you right out of that real quick. So I love Thanksgiving for many reasons. Turkey legs, apple pie, and football is one of them. But mostly just the sheer concept of our country taking pause to be grateful and thankful for all the wonderful things that we do have. Maybe that's why I wore this sweater.
I love it.
We live in an amazing country. It's not perfect. We have a lot of issues. But at the end of the day, humans are good. Mm-hmm. Okay, not all humans are good, but we strive to be good, and the people that understand that and operate from a system of love, this is the week that you can truly be thankful. And I am very, very thankful for everything that's happening here at Serra. I love this place. I have to say, before we all leave, I'm so thankful for my coaching staff. I love these men. They're amazing. And I would not be sitting here as a representative of Serra football without them. And I want them to know how thankful and grateful I am for what you would say, talents, gifts, treasures, whatever the things you say. It's only a mere reflection. Mine is only a mere reflection from the effort of this fantastic coaching staff. I will die. I will go to my grave saying that about these guys. I'm very, very honored and humbled to have them part of Serra football.
Well, they say that gratitude is contagious, and so are those sentiments, because I feel the same way, and I'm just so happy to be able to sit here and talk with you and reflect on all the wonderful things you guys are doing. So happy Thanksgiving. Go Padres. We'll see everybody at 7 p.m. at San Jose City College with full bellies. We're ready to cheer on the Padres. So go Padres.
Go Padres.